Hi, welcome to another episode of PhotoshopLightroomTV. This is episode 78 and I'm Marek Mularczyk from saitraining.co.uk and from PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk. Welcome to another week of your weekly video podcast about anything Photoshop, Lightroom and photography related as well. This week I've got some exciting Photoshop video tutorials for you. But let me just remind you, remember, visit my blog PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk for all latest news, tips, tricks about anything Adobe or technology related. You'll find some video tutorials I'm creating there as well. And if you're interested in video tutorials, check my channel on YouTube. Okay, so let's jump into our first tutorial. This will be in Photoshop and I'm going to show you how to create an interesting design in Photoshop and how to use blend modes and opacity to create an interesting composite. So without further ado, let's jump into Photoshop. I'll be using Photoshop CS6 obviously. Hello, here I am in Photoshop and now I'm going to show you an interesting design effect with blending images into backgrounds. So what I have in here is this image of the statue in front of the Buckingham Palace in London, and here's the image of the background that I'm going to use, the texture that I'm going to use it. So I'm going to start with this image here and I'm going to extract the statue from the background. I'll just quickly use the quick selection tool. I'll make my brush a bit smaller. I'll zoom in a bit, maybe not that far. I'm just going to start selecting it, maybe just this part. I'll zoom in really close, I'll make the brush even smaller, and I'll select these parts here. Remove that, maybe this here as well. Okay, I don't need this part here, just the golden part of the statue. I'll use the refine edge to refine the edge of my selection. Okay, so in this case I'm going to use the smaller radius. I'm going to increase that just a bit, just a touch. That's too far. I'll leave it like that. I'm just going to paint in here around my selection. That looks good. Actually, I'm going to undo that. Okay, and I'm just going to drag and drop it into this design here. It's quite small because of the size of the texture, so let me just undo it and resize the texture. It's going to resize it, make it a bit smaller, let's say for the height, or make it maybe 800, or set the resample image to bicubic sharper, best for reduction. Okay, maybe even smaller, just so it's the same height as screen, 600. It should be just a bit less, 550. That should be okay. Right, and I'm just going to drag and drop this Buckingham image here. I'm holding down the Shift key to position it in the center. I'm going to convert it to a smart object. Okay, and I'll make it just a bit bigger here. Should be okay. Okay, and because I'm using the smart object, I'm not really losing that much of the quality. Okay, I've got. Now I'm going to duplicate this image, so I'll have another copy. Okay, and I'll hide the copy for now. Now this image here, I'm going to make it even bigger. Oh, layer 1. So I'm going to scale it up because this will go in the background. Okay, zoom in. Now I'm going to blend it into the background. So I'm going to go into blend modes and I'll try maybe luminosity, or maybe let's see, multiply. Light, soft light looks good. Okay, so it's blending in the background. This is one of the techniques I want to show you. Now the layer 1 copy, I'm going to position it here. Okay. And I'll just drop down the opacity just a bit. Okay. With the layer 1, I'll drop down the opacity just a bit as well, so it's fading into the background. Okay. And as the effect, I want to show you here in this tutorial, we're using blend modes and opacity for creating interesting designs, interesting effects. I hope you enjoyed it. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial in Photoshop, and I've got one more for you, also in Photoshop, and this time I'm going to show you how to create an old style photograph, old style image from a photograph using blend modes again, and adjustment layers and other features in Photoshop. So I'm going to take an image and we'll make it look into old style and photograph. So another design technique in Photoshop's CS6, any version of Photoshop really. So let's jump into Photoshop and let me show you how to create this design in Photoshop. I'll see you in a bit. Hello, here it is, another design in Photoshop. I'll be working with the same image, the Buckingham image, and at this time I'm going to show you how to create an old style effect using Photoshop. So I'm going to make this image look like it's really old. So I'm going to start by dragging and dropping this image onto the texture, onto the background. Okay. Going to convert it into a small object, and I'll make it bigger. Okay. Maybe even bigger than that. Something like that. Okay, looks good. Position it here. Now I'm going to blend this image with the background using the blend modes. So I'm just going to go through all the blend modes and see which one will look best. Multiply looks very interesting. Okay. Screen is nice, but not in this situation. I think the overlay looks really good. Oh, the soft light. I'll probably go for the soft light for here. Okay, so I'll go for the soft light. Oh, okay, so it's nicely blending into the background, and it looks like it's real. Now I'm going to add an adjustment layer here. So in the adjustment panel, I'm going to add the black and white adjustment layer. Okay, so I'll make it all black and white in the properties panel. What I'm going to do, if I just expand it, I'm going to go through different presets, looking for the interesting effect. I'll use the infrared, and it's very nice black and white old style effect. But there's one more thing I'm going to do. I'll just close the properties. I'm going to clip this adjustment layer to the layer 1. So I'm going to hold the Alt key down, and I'll click between the layers to clip the black and white adjustment layer to layer 1, so the background is still color and the overall design will still be in color. Yeah, now if I hide and show the black and white adjustment layer, you can see the difference it makes. So the image looks nice. You can still see it. It's not black and white, but even though we use black and white adjustment layer, it changes the overall design, creates an interesting effect, an interesting old style color effect in the image. Okay. Another thing we could do here is maybe add some layer effects, maybe give it a shadow or the stroke, but I'm going to leave it like that so you can experiment and try to do more with this image. And this was the second tutorial and the last video tutorial for this week's episode of PhotoshopLightroomTV. As part of the photo tip, or as part of the tip of the week, this week's resource, remember, if you're into Adobe stuff, photography or technology as such, visit my blog, PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk. Also, if you're into photography, remember to put me in your circles on Google+. I've recently shared some of the images I took in Provence, south of France, a beautiful part of France, beautiful part of Europe, and I've shared with you some of the images. So come to Google+, add me to your circles, let's share some content together, or get in touch with me on Facebook, Twitter, or on LinkedIn. Okay, thank you for watching. I'm Marek Mularczyk from SAItraining.co.uk, and I will see you next week in episode 79 of Photoshop Lightroom TV. Thank you for watching. See you next week. Bye bye.